everybody outside this state is bitching about this state.
You feel like your actions and decisions of governor would rise to a level where a recall is a fair response from the voters?
No, not at all.
Gavin Newsom is freaking out. I wonder why so many people are trying to have him recalled. Could it be Gavin ordering Californians to stay home for months to avoid social gatherings? Or is it Gavin ignoring his own stay-at-home order to have dinner at the French Laundry with his cronies? Is it Gavin locking down the entire state, shutting down small mom-and-pop businesses?
Look at this. But right next to me as a slap in my face.
Or maybe it's Gavin allowing movie productions to continue while family-owned restaurants go out of business. Could it be Gavin signing AB 5 into law, putting many independent contractors out of work? Or is it Gavin awarding millions of dollars in no-bid contracts to his biggest campaign donors? Or pays his wife a six-figure salary? Is it Gavin's own companies receiving $3 million from the Paycheck Protection Program? Or is it Gavin ordering a 10% pay cut for state workers while reneging on a promise to reduce his own pay? Or maybe it's Gavin forcing hundreds of thousands of out-of-work Californians to wait for months for money they're owed? Could it be Gavin shutting down churches and even cracking down on singing?
We're not permitted to sing. To think that a person can say, you cannot sing at church.
While strip clubs remained open as they were deemed essential. Or maybe it's pastors getting fined as much as $50,000 for opening their doors. Could it be Gavin's widespread abuse of emergency executive power?
He says a return to life as normal in that state will not happen anytime soon.
Or maybe it's Gavin refusing to give up that emergency executive power even after the CDC lifted all COVID-19 restrictions. Could it be Gavin's new restrictive gun and ammo laws that would make it easy for the government to seize your guns?
They can actually take the gun before the person who's fighting it has a chance to go to the judge and make his argument.
Or maybe it's Gavin sitting back and enabling Antifa and BLM to terrorize cities. Could it be Gavin's failure to repeal Prop 47, reducing felonies to misdemeanors? Or is it Gavin legislatively handcuffing the police with AB 392? Or maybe it's Gavin making it no longer illegal to not help an officer in need? Could it be Gavin overruling the vote of the people by staying the death penalty for over 700 hardened criminals on death row? Or is it Gavin welcoming pregnant women to come to California to fund and facilitate abortions of innocent babies? Or maybe it's Gavin dismantling the death chamber and redistributing death row inmates throughout California's prison system? Could it be Gavin granting criminals leniency, giving them lighter sentences with Prop 57? Or is it Gavin closing the gun stores so Californians can't defend their families? Or maybe it's Gavin making 76,000 more violent career felons eligible for early release? Could it be Gavin fast-tracking criminals back onto the street with AB 109?
He was jailed 14 times and AB 109 kept him from going back to prison.
Or is it Gavin closing California prisons as crime rises in major cities? Or maybe it's Gavin making it harder for law enforcement to identify criminals? Could it be Gavin signing SB 145 into law, reducing penalties for sodomy with minors, protecting pedophiles from having to register as a sex offender? Or maybe it's Gavin enabling serial rapists to continue terrorizing children? Is it that a man caught with a mountain of child porn can be arrested, then allowed to post bond and walk free? Or is it the grotesque sexual education materials being peddled to children as young as 4?
The condom relay races. The teacher is told, make it a fun game. Dental dams for oral on anal sex. 11 and 12-year-olds.
Could it be Gavin signing SB 276 into law, restricting parents' right to seek medical exemptions to vaccines?
I do not play. I want to be really clear. This is something we offer but don't have to. I'm letting people say they're a mother. I'm not letting people go into testimony about their children's medical conditions or perceived medical conditions.
Or is it children's medical records being automatically entered into a state health database? Or maybe it's allowing schools to take children for medical procedures.
To get birth control, including the morning after pill and abortion, without parental knowledge or parental permission, beginning at age 12.
Could it be Gavin putting the teachers' union interests ahead of the interests of children and families? Or is it Gavin shutting down California's public schools while his own kids went to private school? Or maybe it's Gavin forcing mask mandates on children, but not for his own kids, caught not wearing a mask at a summer camp. Could it be Gavin letting teachers' unions dictate when schools reopen and on what terms? Or maybe it's pushing mask mandates on kids for schools to resume in-person learning, even though minors are statistically at the least risk. Could it be Gavin's executive order to phase out gasoline-powered cars by 2035? Or is it Gavin threatening a state takeover of Pacific Gas and Electric? Could it be Gavin pushing the use of electric cars, then urging electric car owners to not charge their car so as to not overwhelm the failing power grid? Too late. Maybe it's the rolling blackouts that cause deaths of seniors who depend on reliable power for their medical equipment.
California Governor Gavin Newsom said the reason for blackouts falls squarely on PG&E.
They've created these conditions. It was unnecessary. We're doing everything in our power, my gosh, doing everything in our power to help them help themselves.
Or maybe it's the ill-preparedness of state disaster response agencies. Could it be Gavin cutting $150 million from California's fire protection budget? Or is it the hundreds of square miles of under-maintained forestry that always catches fire, inadvertently creating a fifth season, fire season?
Multiple blazes breaking out across the state.
Down there, that's the San Fernando Valley. The scene this morning, apocalyptic. And behind me was an entire neighborhood, all gone.
Or maybe it's
the Dixie Fire, the sixth largest in the state's history in Greenville, leaving nothing but the bones of homes and businesses in its wake.
We lost Greenville tonight.
It feels like you're on the set of a horror film.
There's nothing to burn. There's nothing left. Some of the firefighters who've been dealing with this one fire now for nearly a month.
6 of the last 10 largest wildfires in California history have burned over the course of the last year. Officials in this area say the brush is so dry that it only takes one spark to start a new one.
Could it be Gavin wanting to raise taxes, including a tax on water? Or is it Gavin letting our fresh water flow from our mountains out to the ocean while toying with the idea of pumping treated wastewater into our taps? Or is it the manufactured water shortage affecting farmers? Or maybe it's Gavin telling farmers in the San Joaquin Valley that they should shut down production on 2 million acres of farmland. Could it be California having the highest homeless rate in the country? Or is it California having the highest poverty rate in the country?
We have not seen conditions for humans like this since medieval times.
Or is it the billions of dollars wasted on failed homeless programs? Or maybe it's the homeless eating trash out of the dumpster. Is it the lack of healthcare treatment for the mentally ill? Or maybe it's the tens of thousands suffering from substance abuse. Is it the ineffective needle exchange program?
Used needles, bottles of urine, and mountains of garbage, the hazardous byproducts of life on the streets.
Or is it the return of typhus while countless thousands of homeless people are left to slowly die on their freeway overpasses? Is it the lack of transparency with Measure H and Proposition HHH? Could it be Gavin criminally defying federal law with fostering sanctuary cities? Or is it Gavin hindering the federal government's efforts to complete the southern border wall?
A 2,000-mile wall is a monument to stupidity.
There's no downside on securing our border. There's no downside on less illegal immigration. There's no downside on less illegal drugs. There's no downside in taking money out of the criminal cartel's hands who murdered our agents and smuggled drugs and people into this country illegally. Enough opioids last year were seized by ICE to kill every man, woman, and child 3 times.
Could it be Gavin going out of his way to aid and abet illegal aliens to protect them from ICE?
You say you pledge to take ICE out of the county jails. What does that mean?
I'm going to physically kick them out of the county jail. Uniformed ICE agents are not going to set foot anymore in the county jail.
Or maybe it's allowing illegal aliens to vote in local elections and sit on state boards. Could it be Gavin reinstituting the individual mandate to punish Californians for not getting health coverage they already can't afford? Or is it Gavin granting free Medi-Cal healthcare coverage to non-citizen adults up to 26 years old and now expanding that coverage to seniors? What about US citizens who still don't have healthcare coverage? Or maybe it's Gavin giving illegal aliens Californians income tax refunds, welfare, housing, education, food stamps, and cell phones. All for free. It's not free, it's taxpayer funded. Could it be California having the highest state income tax in the country? Or could it be having some of the highest state sales tax in the country? Could it be the sky-high cost of rent? Or maybe it's the constant attacks on Howard Jarvis's Prop 13 hurting commercial property owners? Could it be Gavin wanting to raise business taxes? Or maybe it's the introduction of a new tax with every bowel movement? Could it be Gavin having carte blanche to raise gas taxes at whim without voter approval? Or is it California having some of the highest gas prices in the country? Could it be Gavin diverting gas tax revenue to his pet projects instead of roads, dams, and bridges? Or is it California having the highest vehicle registration costs, yet still having some of the worst roads?
From the potholes in Long Beach and even bigger ones in Fresno to the cracked streets of Placentia and Lomita are in sad shape.
Or maybe it's the billions of dollars wasted on the high-speed train to nowhere that no one asked for. Could it be Gavin having zero accountability and transparency when it comes to spending? Or maybe it's Gavin spending $12 million to convert an arena to treat COVID patients, but only treating 9 patients. Could it be Gavin wanting to close a veterans home with a $22 million annual budget right before Memorial Day? Or maybe it's the thousands of veterans who wrote a blank check up to their life to serve this country, left destitute on the street. Or is it Gavin blowing $20 million of our tax dollars on studying vaping? Or maybe it's Gavin spending $125 million on cash payments to illegal aliens. Could it be Gavin granting $1 billion no-bid contract to a Chinese firm that donated tens of thousands to his campaign to produce faulty face masks? Or is it blowing an additional $315 million on a second order of masks from the same company? Could it be Gavin sending over $30 billion in fraudulent EDD checks to prison inmates? Or maybe it's California being over $1 trillion in debt. Could it be Gavin seeking billions of dollars in collateralized loans from China? Or maybe it's California's billions of dollars in unfunded pension liabilities. Could it be the draconian environmental policies killing entire industries? Or is it the business-crushing regulations forcing thousands of businesses out of California? Or maybe it's that Newsom oversaw California's first population decline in state history. Or maybe it's the unclean voter rolls, mandatory mail-in voting, and a terribly flawed motor voter system.
Under new California law, people will be allowed to register to vote, and it'll happen actually automatically when they obtain or renew their driver's license, regardless of whether they're U.S. citizens.
A new state audit reveals massive flaws with California's motor voter system at the DMV.
A new state audit uncovered some 84,000 duplicate records at the Department of Motor Vehicles, 171,000 cases of voters assigned to the wrong political party. In one instance last October, around 1,500 non-citizens were mistakenly registered to vote, and the Secretary of State's office admitted there are illegal aliens living in California who are now successfully registered to vote, with nothing to stop them but their own conscience.
We found hundreds of people who are eligible to vote but shouldn't be because they're dead. Our former neighbor Ralph Howie, we found his name listed as someone who voted in 2016. Records also show he voted in 2014, 2012, and 2010. But according to the Social Security Administration, Howie, who was born in 1905, died in 2009 at the age of 104.
Could it be Gavin reporting fraudulent COVID numbers to not hurt his approval rating? Or is it California requiring all state employees to show proof of vaccination or be tested weekly? Is it Gavin mandating vaccines for all healthcare workers? Or maybe it's Gavin Newsom putting COVID patients into nursing homes? Or is it all the above? Take a wild guess.
Everybody outside this state is bitching about this state.
Vote yes to recall Gavin Newsom, September 14th. Paid for by the official recall committee, California Patriot Coalition, Recall Governor Gavin Newsom, number 1424018. Committee major funding from Rescue California, Recall Gavin Newsom, Proverbs 3:9 LLC, and Jeff Palmer. Visit recallgavin2020.com.